Hey friends, ZenKahuna here. I'm going to show you how to make a club for yourself, a wooden club for exercising. I know some people don't have the money to put out for a club. So the first thing you need to do is find yourself a piece of wood. This was part of a tree that had fallen. And so there's some nice straight pieces. I cut two pieces the same length roughly, and I've taken off the first level of the roughest part of the bark, and still got a little bit more to go on that. That can all be done later. If you should have a tree that you're cutting down, what you do is you want to take the bark off as soon as you do that, because that'll generally be the easiest time to strip the bark off. Now you notice I'm not using any kind of fancy knife here. This is just a Schrade knife, no big deal. You don't need some super expensive knife to strip off the bark. So you can see how I'm working this, just taking my time. And again, you can make this as fancy as you want. I'm going to show you just how to make a basic good swinging club. Nothing fancy. Okay, so the tools I'm going to be using is my knife. This is the samurai saw. It's a Japanese pull saw. It's got a nice handle on it. It's a good piece of equipment. So first, obviously, I cut my club to the length that I wanted. I don't know exactly how long that is. So if we take a look, it's longer than from my shoulder to my fingertips. Okay? You can see the diameter. So you could, if you get a bigger piece, that's fine too. Keep in mind that your main work is going to be making yourself a small enough handle so you can do the manipulations, the finger manipulations with your club that you want to do. The other thing that you'll need is a hatchet of some sort. I've got a Friskers here, and I've also got a fancy, it's called a man-made hatchet. They're both good hatchets. This one's just sort of my beater. It's always in my car. So's my knife. So's the saw. All right. So when I'm looking at making a handle for myself, obviously I have to decide which end of the stick it's going to be. I'm going to make the heaviest part of the stick be so this is the head. This is going to be the handle. So I like to have about 2 hand widths. So I'm going to mark that with the saw. And I'm going to take that all the way around. Again, you're not making an exact science here. You're just making yourself a crude club. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is cut about 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch up to where my marker line is, all the way around, and then I'm going to start stripping off the piece to the depth of my cut, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. Okay, so here you can see I've cut some grooves in the part that's going to be the handle, and then we're going to start chopping that off from the top, and I'll show you what that's going to look like. Now obviously, if you've got better tools, use better tools. But I'm just showing you how we're going to do this using the tools that we have. All right, so first thing is, so you can see I've already got a piece of it taken off. So what I'm going to do again is just bring the knife to the edge there, and then just use my axe as a little handle or a little hammer. So again, just take a chunk, knock it loose. And don't go too deep. What you want to do is just take your handle down a little bit at a time, because getting your handle fairly even is what takes the time. So let me just show you what we got so far. So here's what we got so far. You can see that we're going to want to make it a little bit smaller than that, but this is our first chunk. So what I'm going to do now is just take off some more farther down the handle, and then we'll get back to you. Okay, so you can see that I'm getting it down to a size. I like a rather fat handle on my clubs anyway, so I'm going to leave it at about that diameter for right now. You can see that I've cleared off a fair amount compared to the end here to the end there. I also use my Mora knife, a push knife, and you can use this either pushing, pulling, or you can even just use it one hand. But when I get down to finer work, I just take my little, I think this is called Beaver Craft. You have a little whittling knife that I like. So you can just get in and get some of the fine work done. So it's just about time to bring some sandpaper to this, because once again, you keep playing with the knife for too long, the next thing you know, you got a handle that's too thin. Okay, so let's take some sandpaper, and I like using a good sturdy kind of sandpaper. This is actually used on a belt. And I order this because it really gives you a lot of variety of grit. And it holds up. Regular sandpaper that I find in the hardware stores falls apart pretty quick. So I'm using some rough stuff here. I can't, I don't know, this is real coarse. So what I'm doing is just starting to kind of neaten things up a little bit. With the coarse sandpaper before I go to the finer sandpaper. So I'll get back to you in a few minutes and let you see where I've taken it to its next level. Hey friends, so here is the finished club. This one I would say weighs right in at around 2 pounds, maybe a little bit more. And I'm just leaving the little scoring marks there. I'm not going to try and take it down that thin. When I do the saw, I don't mind having these little scores because it just kind of gives me a little bit more tactile sensation when I'm working the club. I did sand down where I chopped off the knots and chopped them down a little bit. And I think the only other thing I'll probably do is just add a little oil to this, some of my pure tung oil. And that's as much as anything that needs to be done to it, other than let's see how it swings. Handles beautifully. So it took me all told probably 45 minutes to do it with the tools that I had and some sanding and so on and so forth. So I'm going to, I've got one more of these, so I'm going to make it so I've got a pair, and it doesn't matter if they're not the exact weight. Absolutely not. I oftentimes purposely train with clubs of different weights and then shift hands with them and so on and so forth. So don't let the fact that you don't have much money prevent you from learning how to swing some lightweight Indian clubs. They're great for the shoulders. You can start doing things too. Look at my videos that show using legs with the movements also, and they're just fun.